Got the stock front number plate off. I was lining up this headlight to kind of look at it, make sure I wasn't going to bump into anything, which I may have to relocate the ECU somewhere else because it's doesn't have a whole lot of room when you put this up against there. It's bumping right into it. That's going to interfere with turning, so I may have to find a way to relocate that. But that's not a big deal. But I know something really freaking cool, and I don't know if this is intentional from KTM or not. But it has this little bracket on the headlight, and this, like I said, it's not a KTM headlight, but it's an exact clone of one. Whatever year they use this design, it may be their current one still, but this bracket has a hole through it, and you can unscrew it back here. So I think it's meant for the brake line to come through it, so it doesn't interfere. So I'm gonna try that and make sure the cable fits without snagging in anything, but if it does, props to KTM, that's really fucking cool. So according to Baja's directions, this harness actually plugs on the left side of the bike. It says there's a green connector, which I've located, under the left fairing. This guy right here, the Baja harness is gonna slip in between this, and I'll show me doing that, but let me get these fairings off. So to remove the left side fairings, if you don't know how to do this, you probably shouldn't be attempting, but just these 4 bolts here. Got one here, one here, one here, and one here. There's one bolt that's longer than the rest, and that's the one that goes through the radiator. The one right beside the radiator has to go through the radiator support. So the longest bolt is going to go here. The other 3 are all shorter. Alright, I've got the left side fairing off, and like I said, you'll have 4 screws here. Your longest is that one that I was talking about that goes on the radiator shroud. Make sure you put that one in because the other screws won't reach. Just, if you can see here, it's got to go all the way through this and then through the radiator shroud here. So anyway, here's the Baja Designs LED FI harness. They make these for the YZ and the 450R, the CRF 450R that are fuel injected. So this bike comes with a plug-in switch that you mount to the handlebars. It basically allows you to turn on and off the harness power, because when you start the bike, if you're drawing too many watts, the bike won't start. It'll try and pull all the watts to your light instead of the fuel pump. So it's got a handy on-off switch. So this harness is really simple. Your power source is this one with the green right here, the rubber sealed ones. And then the area it taps into, you're going to plug it in between this green harness. You're going to disconnect these. You're going to, well, it'll go this way. You'll plug this into where this is. Basically, you can replace it on that bracket as well. And then the bottom one will plug in the other side. So you're just going to put this between those two. So let me see if I can do this one-handed. To remove this, there's a little clip here. Just pinch this in, and you always want to make sure you're pulling. Don't pull on the wires, pull on the connector itself. You pull on the wires, especially on a bike that's been in a lot of dirty, nasty conditions, the plastic's probably going to be a little bit seized in there. If you just pull on the wires, you're liable to rip them out. I'm already having trouble. I may have to grab a pair of pliers to do this. I don't like using pliers because it mars the plastic, but it's better than risking breaking wires. Let me grab a set of pliers and try this. Alright, attempt number 2, got a set of pliers in here. Like I said, this isn't my preferred method because this usually mars the plastic connectors, but it's better than snapping the wires off. And if you're using pliers, just be careful not to, there we go, not to let it slip and pull on the wires. So I did clip my wires a little bit. I didn't skin them, but I did grab onto them, so I'm just making sure they're okay. Connectors all look good. Everything else looks good. So the Baja harness is just going to plug in here, and then we're going to run it up the neck just like the stock wiring. Basically follow this end of the green connector that we're about to connect into. You're going to follow that. You can see this white Baja plug is a mirror of the green one. It's exactly the same. well, for the most part, but you're gonna plug it in the same direction. That little tab is gonna face out, just like the one we took out. So that's plugged in, and now you're gonna plug the other end that you unplugged from the green into the white here. Now this has a spot, this connector has a spot to slide back where the green one is if you want to do that. I'm just gonna leave the green one in place, and I'll zip tie these to each other so they stay in place. So, and here's the green one. Alright, sorry guys, I forgot to record this, but it's really nothing complex. So I'm still running into clearance issues with the headlight, with the ECU in place. The back of the headlight smashing into it. When I turn, it's rubbing against the ECU, so I'm gonna have to relocate it. I unplugged it. It just sits in this bracket like this, and there's another bracket that this plug sits in. It sits right in front of the ECU. So you just take a 8mm and unscrew that. You can pull this one off, and then you can get the ECU out. It just pulls off. It just, this rubber is just lines up on these tabs. So I'm trying to figure out where I'm going to put the ECU now. And then this is also on this bike, on the KX. You have 3 different ECU maps from factory. So you switch out these little end plugs to change the map. It's got the middle map in it, like the standard map. I'm actually going to probably put it on the softer map. I think it's like the hard, it's supposed to be for like hard packed dirt. So it gives a little softer throttle response. So I think that's the one I'm going to put in there. Or maybe it's softer, one of the two. But whichever the lowest power setting is, I'm going to put that one in for the street for temporary. If I think it needs a little more oomph, then I'll put this plug back in. But anyways, so I got to figure out what I'm going to do with this wiring harness. I'm thinking I'm going to take off this bracket. I don't want to like drill into the frame to re-screw it. So I'm probably just going to hold it on there by like zip ties or something. But I'm thinking like, I don't know, maybe somewhere on the side right here. I'd like to do it inside, but I think the tank sits too far down. I don't want a bunch of heat buildup killing this thing. So I got to see how far the harness will let me move it. Doesn't look like I have a whole lot of room because there's the main harness right here. So I don't know. Let me figure out what I'm going to do with the harness, and I'll take video of that. Alright, we're moving along. So I'm about to mount my handlebar control. But yeah, I just went ahead and put the ECU right here. I'm going to zip tie these other connections around the same spots. Just make sure they clear the fork right there where it's closing. So I'll probably zip tie them like stacked on top of each other. So, not the prettiest or best position for it. I guess I could flip it around, but that would just put more wiring down in this area, so I think it'll be alright. It's not really going to be anywhere around my legs or anything, so yeah, it doesn't look that great, but for temporary, that's what I'm going to do. I'll see if I can figure out a better solution later on. But like I said, I'm just trying to get this thing up and road legal for now, and then I can like slowly work out small details like that. So as long as it's out of the way and it's majority out of the way of the radiator, so I'm not too worried about heat hitting it a whole lot. But if I feel like it's over getting the ECU too hot, then I'll find another place to move it. I'll probably at that point I'll probably have to make some changes to the wiring harness itself, which I don't want to do, but if it comes down to it, that's what I'll have to do. So moving on, I'll get these zip tied up, but I'm still figuring out placement for everything. This is the Baja harness that's also going to go up and feed. If I can hopefully make it reach, if not I'll have to make my initial power connection here into the front. So, but this headlight is badass. I really love the look of these KTM lights. There's several different options of lights you can choose from. My personal favorite, as long as it's bright enough at night, I'll try and test out tonight with the battery, like pull it out into my apartment complex and see how bright. And you can also you can adjust this headlight up and down slightly. It's got a little adjustment back here that you can tilt and bring light in and out to kind of aim the beam. So the main problem is whether it's going to work well with this LED bulb. I kind of looked at it, looked like it had a good cutoff, and then when I hit high, so it looks like it's going to work fine. Hopefully it does. But if anything, it'll at least pass inspection, and I can figure out another type of lighting for the headlight. So I've got my wiring diagram for my handlebar switch, which most likely the only thing I'm going to end up using off this switch is the high and low beam light controls, which is these 3 blue wires. Probably won't, but I might wire, maybe I'll use this as my switch between power modes. Like I could basically wire left or right, whichever I choose would be the bike power, and then right would be the battery power. So I may do it like that since I'm not running signals. Actually, that might be the best option since I won't have to add more fucking switches to this bike. So I'm trying to keep down the switch content as much as I can. I've already got 2 factory switches, which one is the kill switch, which every bike has, and then the other one is the launch control, which is this switch. So I'm already going to be kind of overcrowded here. The launch control and engine stop start will be here, and then I'll put my bar switches right here, and I've got these loose so I can adjust them. I'm going to get this all as close as I can, but I got to put this assembly on first. Alright, I've got this wiring cleaned up. I've rerouted the Baja harness a little bit. I just ran it up and behind and right here. This is the power portion of it, and then the switch portion. I've fastened the handlebars. I don't remember if I showed all this, but got my launch control, engine stop start, and light controls here, high beam, low beam. I'm going to do the switch positions, and then I'm going to have to take this connector off and reconnectorize it with something more user-friendly because I don't know where to get these locally. Alright, so working on the wiring. I ran to AutoZone and got some stuff for the wiring, but I wanted to go ahead and get the battery tray mounted. So what I'm going to do is, you have space in the airbox if you want to run an iCAD battery, like an RC battery, but I picked up this one, which I showed earlier. So this is going to sit right down in the airbox. Problem is I tried just like zip tying it up here, and the seat butts into it, so you have to have a little bit of a gap. So I'm going to make, or I made a battery tray. I'm going to fold these edges over to shorten it down, but this is just going to wrap around this cross support right here. And it's just normal sheet metal. I got this at Home Depot a while back. I don't know what size it is, but just a roll of super thin ass sheet metal. So I'll work this out a little better. Like I said, all I'm going to do is fold the edges to thin it out so it's not as wide, so it fits right across that cross member, and then I'll hang down and I'll make some secure for the battery. Alright, I finished my professional ass battery tray out of sheet metal, sheet aluminum. So I'm just going to zip tie it around the back of this cross member here. That should give me just enough clearance for the battery. So let me zip tie that real quick, and I'll show you what it looks like. I just folded sheet metal over and then drilled a couple holes for zip ties. Alright, the ghetto ass battery tray is in, works perfect, seat clears it. There it is. So that's where the battery's going to sit. I'm going to put some double-sided tape on the back of it on the rear fender so it won't come up like that. And then probably zip tie the fuck out of the battery in there. So it may bounce a little, but nothing major. I'll probably like zip tie around it and stuff, just keep it in place as much as possible. But if you're running a bigger battery like this, this is about the best setup you can do, quick and easy and cheap. Alright, sorry guys, I'm trying to manage so much freaking different things on this. So I took the battery tray back out to make a few modifications. I drilled a hole right here through the back so that I could secure the battery to it better, and I just ran a zip tie around it. And it's not bent quite as accurate as I wanted it to be. There's a little bit of gap back here and stuff, but it's not terrible. It'll work for what I need it to. And then I'm gonna put well, with the zip ties, I don't know if it's wiggling around a whole lot. I may go ahead and like clean up the airbox and put some 3M double-sided tape back there so it stays in, but still gonna go in the same way. Just sit right there. Be zip tied so it's hanging right above the air filter. And then I also went ahead and drilled and put on my tail light and license plate light. got that done. It's mounted securely. Now I just got to extend these wires up to the front of the bike. Also got to figure out where I'm going to wire or route them under here. Probably I have some little sticky backs, like little squares that you can put a zip tie through. I'll probably put a few up underneath the tail and secure the wiring. Just back off like that, and then I'll run it through. I'll probably drill a hole right here and then run the wiring through here, over and up to the front, because I want all my main connections to be at the front where the headlight is, so I can easily wire everything from the front of the bike. I've got room now that I moved the ECU. So that's where I'm at right now. Got the battery box built. I got to re-zip tie it, but battery box is in and secure. I just need to do 2 leads from the battery up and 2 for the tail light and brake light. Well, technically 3, because brake light has 2 positions, like running and high mode for the brake. A lot of fun.